Hi guys, if you have questions, email me or write a comment. Okay, today we are going to talk about trigonometric identities for addition and subtraction. Addition and subtraction formulas. What do I mean by that? For example, for the sine and cosine and tan. We're going to talk about sine, cosine and tan. If we have sine s plus t, a plus b, addition between any two angles, how would I find that? That will always be equal to sine the first angle, cosine the second angle, plus cosine the first times sine the second. How would you remember this easily? For sine, it's always sine, cosine, cosine, sine. And if it's addition, then the sign between these will always be addition. So for sine, the middle sign here will be the same. If it's subtraction, it will be subtraction. And it will always be sine, cosine, cosine, sine. Sine the first, cosine the second, and then you switch. Cosine the first, sine the second. For cosine, how would I remember that? Cosine will always be cosine, cosine, sine, sine. And the sign in the middle will be the opposite. So for the cosine, it will be the opposite. So if I have cosine s plus t, it will be cosine s cosine t minus sine s sine t. Now for the tan, it's almost the same. You will have tan plus tan, and the sign on the numerator will be the same, and in denominator it will be 1 minus or 1 plus, and that will be opposite all the time. So if you have plus, that will be minus. If you have minus, that will be plus. So on the top you will have addition, on the bottom you'll have 1 minus or 1 plus the multiplication. Okay, now let's have an example on this. Try to figure out why do we need such an identity. Let's say that I'm asking you to find cosine 75 degrees without using a calculator. How would you find that without using a calculator? And that's the key. I'm talking about cosine here. So can I use addition or subtraction to get 75 from angles that we know? The special angles that we know are 30, 60, 45, 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360s. Can I use any of these to get 75? Actually, yes. I can say that 75 is equal to 45 plus 30 degrees. So now I have cosine of addition between two angles, which means the formula will be, I'll write it without going up. That's cosine. So it will be cosine, cosine, opposite, so minus, sine, sine. Now, what are the angles? The first angle, 45, so cosine 45 here, sine 45 here. The second angle is 30, so I have cosine 30, sine 30. Each time you switch. Okay, now let's try to evaluate this. What do we have? Cosine 45, it's radical 2 over 2. Cosine 30, which is radical 3 over 2, minus sine 45, it's also radical 2 over 2. Sine 30 is half. Now if you multiply these and simplify, you will get radical 6 over 4 minus radical 2 over 4. So all of them, radical 6 minus radical 2 over 4. That's my exact value of cosine 75. Remember, exact value means without using calculator. Now, let's check that for sine. If I said I wanted to find sine 15 degrees, why did I choose 15? What's the relation between 15 and 75? If you remember, 75 and 15, these are complementary angles, so they should be equal, just like 30 and 60. Sine 30 is the same as cosine 60. So cosine 75 should be the same as sine 15, which means I should get this answer. Is that true? Let's check that by using addition and subtraction formulas. This is sine 15. So you can use two angles to get 15. So you can either use 45 minus 30, or you can use 60 minus 45. Let me choose 60 and 45 this time, just to show you that you should get the same answer. So sine 60 minus 45, that will give you 15. Now I'm talking about the sine. What's the formula for sine? It's sine cosine, and you keep the sign the same, so minus cosine sine. Okay, now sine what and cosine what? Sine the first, cosine here the first, and cosine the second, sine the second. And now we just evaluate, and that will give you sine 60 radical 3 over 2, cosine 45 again radical 2 over 2, minus cosine 60 is half, sine 45 radical 2 over 2, multiply, this will be radical 6 minus radical 2 over 4, and that's exactly the same as what we got here. These formulas are easy and easy to memorize. Now your question will be, to do this question, let's try to find tan 15 degrees. Try to do this by your own. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and write your questions via email or comments.